So today let's start with a question. What do you get when you combine the most popular franchise in the history of the world with one of the most addictive gameplay loops, survival, throw in a little taste of Breath of the Wild, and mix it all together with a sense of progression? Well, apparently, what you get is a $100 million idea. Because in just a few short days, that's what Palworld is doing. It's capitalizing on the mistakes of Pokemon, along with all of the benefits of throwing it into genres that already have a predefined, satisfying game loop. And then you add in arguably the one thing that those games lack, which is meaningful progression. There's no doubt that there are many, many creatures in this game that seem like direct ripoffs of Pokemon. Now, is that a problem? Yeah, sure. Is that going to stop people from buying and playing the game? Well, just check Steam for the answer to that question, as this has sold, I don't know what the number is at the time that this video posts, but 6 million, 7 million, 8 million copies? Who knows? And that's in addition to the fact that this thing is launching on Game Pass, and we don't have the details of that player count available to us. So whatever's being exposed to on Game Pass, plus this 8 million purchases, and this is only the first week or so that the game's been out. I mean, the sky is the limits for this thing. And today we're going to talk a little bit about why that's the case. To fully understand that, you have to start with what created Palworld. And I'm not talking about the developers, I'm talking about the business opportunity, the market opportunity, the supply and demand. There is a huge, ravenous fan base for Pokemon. No one can dispute that. The numbers speak for itself. It's basically like the most profitable IP in the history of IPs. So Pokemon is the thing. Now, is this Pokemon? Well, it's pretty darn close. But why is there this absence? Why is there this vacancy in the market that creates a slot for Palworld to pop right in there? Well, first of all, the Pokemon Company didn't do themselves any favors whatsoever with their last, I don't know how many releases of Pokemon. They have fallen into this rut of re-releasing the same game with a few different concepts added to it. The exception being obviously the spin-off game, Pokemon Legends Arceus, which I would argue is by far the best Pokemon game that they've had in, I don't know, a decade. All of these other games are derivative. They have this not so great method of, oh, well, we're gonna make 2 versions of each game. And then, I don't know, 5 years later, they do a re-release of that. So now we've got Shining and Brilliant, but we're gonna have the same game basically with some updates. And how updated is it? On top of that, you've got games like Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, which released in really poor states. In the case of Scarlet and Violet, it hasn't gotten any better. It's just added some DLC. And then the ultimate killer, you trap it all on these systems that really struggle to play the game. The Switch, as much as I love the thing, you can tell by my collection here, it's basically a mobile chipset. It's basically a phone's power. And honestly, phones have long surpassed the power of the Switch at this point. But all of these games, all of these IPs, whether it's Zelda, whether it's Mario, whether it's Metroid, and most especially Pokemon, they are on these underpowered machines that really can't provide a modern experience for a gamer. So you have games that are glitchy, games that are unfinished, games that are a derivative of themselves, games that don't innovate whatsoever. You have spin-off games like Detective Pikachu Returns, which who the hell asked for that game? Nobody. And you have this IP that is an absolute veritable gold mine sitting on your hands that you're basically mistreating this entire time. These generations of fans that have grown up playing these games and are itching for the next Pokemon game. And each time they get it, you basically have the Pokemon Company spitting in their faces and giving them some more rehashed crap. You've got a ravenous fan base who's looking for the next big thing, and they've been spurned so many times by the company that they keep supporting. And then along comes Palworld. And what do? They give the people what they want. You want cuddly little creatures that you can battle with and go through your experience with and build up and get stronger. You got it. You want to be able to explore an open world and find new creatures and battle them and go against bosses and ride your creatures all around the place, flying and mounts and all this stuff, you got it. You want to take those little guys, put them to work to build an army for you, or ammunition, or build a castle, or build a kingdom, you got it. And in addition to all this, the game is under $30. Pokemon games have been $50 to $60 for the last, I don't know how many games in a row, and this game costs less than half of that. Now, to go back to my last point, instead of being on the Switch, or the 3DS, or the Wii U, now you're open to PC and Xbox Series X. Just a monumental leap in computing power. So, even though this game is glitchy, it has bugs, it seems unfinished because it is unfinished, it's an early access, and there's no cohesive story to try and drive the player forward, none of that matters. Why? Because you're giving the customer what they want. You're giving them the creatures they want in an open world situation with survival elements to it, which honestly, you can argue that a lot of those gameplay elements come straight from Ark Survival Evolved. You throw in some things like the hang glider from Breath of the Wild. You get some little piano notes like Breath of the Wild. I mean, sure, this game is super derivative, but you put it all together and the game is fun. I'm sorry to break it to you, fans. The reason why over 2 million concurrent players are playing this thing at the same time, the game is fun. And at the end of the day, isn't that why we play games to begin with? The Pokemon Company has absolutely no one to blame but themselves for this situation. They could have made this game a long time ago. They could have talked to Nintendo and said, you know what, we are part of your brand and everything, but there's just some things that we can't do on this system if they really can't figure it out. Although there are many amazing games on the Switch that do fantastic jobs, like Tears of the Kingdom, like Super Mario Wonder, like Metroid Prime Remastered. There are games that are efficiently taking advantage of this stuff. It just seems like the Pokemon Company can't bring themselves to do it. They have absolutely no one to blame but themselves. This game should have been made by the Pokemon Company, and then this $100 million idea could have been a, I don't know, $250 million idea that would have been under the Pokemon umbrella of games, and they could have soaked it all in themselves. They don't need anyone to back them up, because all of these games that came out, Pokemon Legends Arceus sold 6.5 million units in its first week. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet sold over 10 million units in its launch weekend. And all time, Pokemon Sword and Shield has sold over 21 million units. So Palworld being at 8 after a week or so, I mean, this just tells you what kind of a void in the marketplace that the Pokemon Company left for the Palworld developers to jump in there, seize the opportunity, and build a game that people ultimately want. There are some folks out there that are trying to say that this game is a scam, that they are using AI, that they are ripping off models from Pokemon. Now, there are certainly some creatures that are very similar to Pokemon, but there's no proof that they've used AI for anything. The people that were alleging that models were stolen so far have literally been shown to fake some of the evidence. So it's very difficult to try and find someone who's actually got some legitimate gripes over the validity of this game and whether or not it's morally right to support it. At this point, the developer says they didn't use AI. We take them at their word. At this point, the Pokemon Company has not sued them. They released this statement saying that they're looking into it and they're going to do everything they need to protect their brand. They would have already done it. People put in mods of this game and got like immediately taken down and attacked by a Pokemon Company, because the mods had the actual Pokemon characters in it. I think we're past that point. They would have figured it out by now. So, Palworld is a game that exists. It's a game that works. It's a game that, for all intents and purposes, is a functioning, fun game. So, at the end of the day, people are right to take their less than $30 or their Game Pass and show support for this game that's giving them exactly what they're asking for. Is it perfect? No. Is it the best game ever created? No. Is this putting Baldur's Gate 3 to shame? Absolutely not. It's not. But it's fun, it's enjoyable, it has an enjoyable loop, and this is still pre-release. I can tell you it's much more stable and less buggy than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Scarlet and Violet have been out for what? A year and a half at this point. So Pokemon Company, you have no one to blame but yourselves. Palworld developers, I hope you see what kind of a gold mine you've got here and really start to put some funding and put some development power behind this, because you have an absolute gold mine on your hands. Congratulations to you for seeing the opportunity in the market, for seizing it, and for giving the players what they want. And to anyone who feels like they want to go and try this game, well, if you got Game Pass, you've already got it. So just go and download that pre-access to jump on there. But in the meantime, enjoy a fun video game. That's all I got to say. If you like today's content, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe, as this is a very small channel that's still trying to build. But until next time, this is Pirates for Pirates Gaming saying thank you for watching, and I will see you there.